Good evening and welcome to the Norfolk Board of Selectmen's meeting of Tuesday, October 2nd. My name is Jim Lehan. To my right is my associate, Mr. Palumbo. To my left is my associate, Mr. Calcutt. To his left, Town Administrator Jack Hathaway, and to his left, our Administrative Assistant, Susan Jacobson. This meeting, I would like to remind everybody that this meeting is being both audio and videotaped in accordance with Mass open meeting laws. Would you please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Mr. Hathaway, would you read the agenda, and then we will vote to go into a very brief executive session.
Sure. First order of business, executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation in this case. This is the litigation regarding Lake Street, the Lake Street settlement agreement discussion. Following that, we'll return to open session and have consideration of the Lake Street settlement. We consider the town administrator's contract and an amendment thereto. Please consider the MAS building and bridge contract. We have a request for a road closure for Halloween party, discussion about the warrant, and possibility of opening the warrant and adding an article from Representative Dooley. Additional discussion items including reviewing the remainder of the warrant, and a discussion about the town administrator search committee, and update on projects, and a report of the warrants that are listed on your agenda.
Thank you very much. We are going to be going into executive session. I'd anticipate 10 or 15 minutes. It is for the purpose of getting clarity on the litigation revolving Lake Street from our attorney. And then we will be returning to open session. We will take no votes while in executive session, and any votes taken will be taken in open session. So may I have a vote motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Jeff Palumbo, aye.
Kevin Calcutt, aye.
Jim Lehan, aye. Thank you. Well, as soon as she says we're good to go. Rick, I don't think you're blocking anything there. I think you're okay. The cameras are up here, so I... Welcome back to the Norfolk Board of Selectmen's meeting. We have voted to come back into open session. And the first agenda item is not the warrant. It's Lake Street. I'm the only one left still standing on this board from this nightmare on Lake Street. It'll be like a Halloween movie, I think. We have reached an agreement to end the litigation. And we're going to share with you some of the highlights of that, which really aren't a lot of highlights. And I think what's more important is what the next steps are, and Mr. McGee is going to talk about that. We have not voted to approve the agreement yet. We're satisfied with it, but we thought we'd hear from you folks a little bit first, and from Mr. McGee, and then we will hopefully vote to accept this agreement and get on with fixing Lake Street. So I think it's all good news. So, Mr. McGee, you want to share what's...
This angle over here, Jim.
Please. Share what's going to happen. We have our attorney here, Seth Barnett, who has been involved in negotiating this, but we're not going to get into the specifics of all of this stuff tonight. I don't think it serves any purpose other than to say that we have an agreement to end the litigation and to get on with acknowledging that it's a town road and we're going to fix it. So, Bob, all yours.
Well, what I can tell you is that you've probably seen us out there a handful of times on the street. We've been out there grading, we've driven stakes in the ground, we've made bits of investments out there, and with hopes that we were going to move forward and feeling really good about it. So it's semi-embarrassing to go out there and do any more until we got to this point right here. And so legally, I think we're on good ground to move forward. So our plan is we're going to build a street. If you don't know this and you haven't heard it, because I've described it to many people going by. So we're going to build a street and try to keep it to its existing layout. When I talk about feet and inches, that's all we're talking about of anything different than what you see out there, other than it's going to be on grade. It's going to be 16 feet width of asphalt. It's going to be the driveways. The street will come to meet the driveways, so there'll be good transition. It's not going to be the width of a minimum width street as we originally planned at 22 feet. So what's been going on out there, as you all know, is the street's probably about 14 to 16 feet as it is right now, and as people go by one another, you courteously pull over and you're probably going up onto a little bit of grass to let the other person by. So what we're proposing to do is, as we started out, is find a center line in that street. We've already had an investment into the layout of that street, so we know what it looks like. I have it on drawings, and we have poles that we can find that center line again. Now, I'm just talking inches because we all know where it is. And we're going to grade that street down by process of reclamation and grading, but not just a sidewalk or a driveway grader, a good-sized grader that you might have seen out there a month ago. We're going to fix these grades. We're going to bank the street because it's not really in a 16-foot width enough to create a crown. So we want to tell the water where to go because it's a sensitive, environmentally sensitive area out there. Needless to say, the pavement is going to prevent from any more erosion because it's unsightly, some of the areas out there, because of what we've experienced over the years. But the pavement is going to prevent from that. So what we're going to do is we're going to pave a 16-foot road in there. We're going to identify areas for pullouts, and this is just another extension 4 feet wide so a car can go 4 feet by maybe 22 feet or something like that. When a car's coming and there's plenty of view, one car can pull over just like you've been getting along, except this time they'll be pulling over onto either a piece of asphalt or a stable surface. Let the other car come by. I'll talk to the board and people or the police department to see if we're going to put signs up, properly signed, just to cue people that this is it's a narrow street, go slow. Post it at whatever we can for minimum width. I think if we posted at 15 miles an hour, people are still going to go 25. I think if you post it at 25, they're going to go 35. My recommendation, and I'm not a police officer, is I would keep it as low a speed as possible, and I think people will respect that. So we pave the street. First thing we're going to do is We find the center line. With the center line, we can identify exactly the trees that have to come down. Things have changed a little bit over the years, so we're going to go back out there again in just an hour's time, put a ribbon around those trees, have our tree company come in, cut the trees, could be a crane in some cases, could be just a bucket truck, stump it, and then that's the process at which, at that time, we'll come in and we'll reclimate it. There's been a real tough time over the last winter with so many trees down, and if you can see what the gypsy moths have done, the tree companies are way behind. We're taking trees down now that we've had scheduled like 2 months ago to take down. That's how busy they are. But the tree company that we've used for many years, has been out there a few times, ready to go, and have been set back, so they know that there's a real concern and an outcry for everybody, so there's a good chance that I can get them in there as soon as possible. So as far as the schedule goes, as soon as they can come in, I'll stop whatever we're doing and we'll come out there. But the tree's got to come down first. It's got to get stumped, reclimate and grade the street, put down 16-foot pad with a pull-out. We have something to plow, you have something to drive on, and then we'll come back at a later date, and then we'll start to clean up the sides through the process of a notice of intent with the DEP and the local conservation, and we'll bring these sides back up where the gravel has taken over some of the vegetation, create some swale areas, some runoff areas, so there's no more erosion. So we're going to tell the water where to go, and we'll let it go into the wetlands clean, where right now it's going down, it's bringing the dust and the dirt, and it's killing everything underneath it. So it's a pretty simple plan, and I think...
So the short recap of that is this fall, trees, grade, pave with a binder.
Exactly.
In the winter, go to Concom and to DEP, get the drainage finalized, come back in the spring, finish the drainage, and put a top coat on
Right.
in the future.
Through the spring and the summertime. It's
Yep.
easier to do that work when there's no foliage, but that's the plan.
So you do foresee again?
You got to grab the microphone and your name and address, sir, if you could, please. It's not for us, it's for the cable. Thanks.
Rich Saccone, 30 Lake Street. You do foresee it being paved before the winter?
We do.
Okay, great.
We do. I just can't say it's going to be starting next week, when I know that tree company could come in. But we're going to do a little engineering work and before they come out, so you'll pretty much know the layout.
So Peter Agricola, 32 Lake Street. Is there any thought to putting in speed humps? I love the idea of 15 miles per hour because that is my biggest fear is that this is a cross through to Medway Street and people will go through there. So 15 miles an hour, please, please, please do that. I've got crazy kids and I've got big dogs and I don't, I'm at the point where we know it's going to be paved. So please make it 15 miles an hour. But is there any chance of putting in speed humps? I'm not talking about speed bumps, something that can be plowed. There are instances of this all over the place. In Westwood, when I cut through, and I'm a cut-through guy, so shame on me, is there any thought of doing that to keep the speed down? Again, I've got teenagers. So I have teenagers' friends. Love to make any way possible to keep people, my kids included, from slowing down on that street.
Yeah, we did this on Everett Street. I take the same cut through in Westwood you do. And that's where we got the idea. And we do it in Everett, and it's worked fine. So if you guys, I guess I'd leave that to you and the police to figure out if that's something that's appropriate, but it sure makes a lot of sense for that road.
I think you're going to get a little fight from the police and fire. But what I can tell you is we're
I
only
think they're okay with the speed humps.
Could be. But I'd like
They're
to know
okay with Everett
if
Street.
that's going to happen because we're putting down a base coat first, and if I'm going to put it in, I'd like to do it one ply. But the binder, because the binder course of asphalt, we're going to come back at some time after we do the mitigation work and top that street. So it's even a little bit, and that would be the time to really put the speed bumps in. If we do it, I need to know because we want to build it up and not come back and just overlay it. It just looks horrible. But what I would recommend is, whatever you want is fine. I'm just telling you, if we're going to have a narrow street, we're going to have some pullouts. If we post it at 15 miles an hour, if we can do that, maybe give that a chance. And if at that point you're not satisfied, maybe we consider that, but maybe in the top course.
Fair enough. And the other thing, I'm sorry for my lack of knowledge, when you talk about stumping stuff, so I know I have trees marked on my front yard. I would like there to be empty stumps in my front yard. A little bit. I'm also a little bit afraid of my dog fence getting nailed in the amount that's there. If that happens, will we be compensated, and will that be stumped down? I don't want big empty stumps in front of my house with these big
The
trees.
trees that
I
need
understand
to-
the trees have to come down.
Yeah.
And I understand that's not going to be immediate, but are those going to be taken down at some point? I know it won't be this fall, but I don't want that to be 2 springs from now, and I'm looking at empty stumps in my front yard.
Well, the trees aren't the problem. The stumps are the problem. If you get what I mean, it's kind of like a
So, yeah,
twisted
so
term.
when you say stump, because we've had this conversation before, when you say stump, you're talking about removing the stump.
That's
You're
right.
not just talking about level cutting. He's
If
talking
I
about
couldn't
removing
remove
the
the
stump.
if I couldn't remove the stump,
No,
I wouldn't remove the tree.
We've had that conversation many times, so.
Yeah, the beginning of my statement was that my lack of knowledge here,
Yeah,
Jack.
no, that's fine.
So that was it.
Yeah.
And last time I got a big mouth, so I've got the microphone, so you got to let me go here. But there are some beautiful trees that sit on the street, right? That they overhang on the road, and I understand that. But part of the beauty of Lake Street and why we moved there many years ago was because it was a dirt road. I understand it's inevitable that it's going to be paved, but at some point, I do not want to see this become just a typical neighborhood. I don't think any of us bought our homes there because it was a typical neighborhood, or at least we
Let me
did
answer that,
not.
Bob.
There's a big there. I'll give you one example. By the McCormick's property, there's a big hanging branch that I went by today, and it's gorgeous. And I just hate to see the beauty of the street get ruined for the fact that it's going to be paved. And I'm just curious what that plan happens to be.
If I may, Bob, I'm not a tree expert either, but the intent, when this originally was planned and they were talking about a 22-foot road, it involved taking down more trees.
Yep, it did.
That is not the case now. So there are a lot of trees that are still marked there, and a lot of them that are marked will not be removed. The only trees that are going to be removed are the ones that will have an impact on the road. That if there's an undergrowth underneath the road, it's going to heave up the road, those have to go. Other than that, I don't think Bob has any intent of removing any trees. It's only those that impact the road. So it'll be less than what has been marked and what was previously thought.
Do those impact the road?
I'm sorry?
Do those impact the road?
Tre-
Performance,
Yeah?
do their trees impact the road?
We have the area in front of Mr. McCormick's house will be a little bit different than the
I
rest
don't
of the
think those
road.
2 old trees that are in front of
You're talking about the 2
McCormick's-
old trees?
Yeah, those don't impact the road.
Yeah.
So those aren't coming down. Those 2 old trees?
The ones in his front yard, the big old ones in the front yard, they are not coming down.
There is a question on a branch, though. Got to be, but we're just talking trimming, not to take the life of a tree. I would have a professional do it, but there is one tree that's almost coming out of the water right smack across the street from his. That tree's almost like it's a good visual barrier. It tells you to stay in the road. So no intention of taking that down, and they didn't want it down anyways.
Any other questions? Sir?
John Allen, 40 Lake Street, you just said that in front of McCormick's is going to be different than the rest of the road?
It's,
Mentioned
there'd be a
something that-
difference in the width of a foot.
Okay, it's just with, it would be asphalted from Main Street.
It'll all be paved,
Midway.
the difference in width is a foot.
Okay. So that's what you said something would be different in front of them.
Yeah.
I just wanted clarity, that's all. Thank you.
You have to press a button.
Any other questions? Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, please, go ahead.
Jean Lesage, 14 Lake Street. What's going to happen in front of my house?
I got to talk to you about that. There's an area there's a challenging area that holds water in front of her house, and with some cooperation from your neighbor across the street. Are you there? Oh, there. How you doing? Yeah. I need to talk to you and your husband. I approached you once, and then your husband another time. But whatever we do will be done very with taste, and it's going to take your cooperation to bring that water out. You don't want to get into manholes and catch basins, not on a street like that. So if we can take care of the drainage by runoff, that's our goal.
Just one more question. You talked about there's less trees than are marked. Are you going to identify those before the process takes place?
Yes.
Because again, there's still the signs from 2014, and I followed your people down the street like a jerk with my big dogs. But we'd like to know, it would be nice to know what trees are coming down. I know we have no impact on that, but it would be interesting to find out before everything was paved, what trees were going to come down, and when, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you could come with me. That'd be,
I won't bring I'll bring my big dogs. They're very friendly. But no, but I would be like when it was originally done, it was kind of horrifying because I have 10 oaks in my front yard, and 7 of them are going down, and now it looks like 2, and that's actually one of them really kind of needs to come down. So I'm kind of happy about that. But I would like to see what the character of the road is going to look like
I
because
just
again,
can't remember your property.
it's
already.
32.
Yeah.
We're actually on the one spot of the road that generally doesn't need to be repaired because we're not on a hill. We're on the upside of the hill coming from Main Street.
Okay.
So
He's to the left of us, Bob. If
Yeah.
you're looking at our house, he's to the left.
Oh,
So-
okay, yeah.
Skating rink
So
in
I-
front in the winter.
Yeah. I was going to grade down a little bit there, but
and
again,
I'm not okay. I'm fine with the grading. I'm curious about the rest of the character. Again, I'm more concerned more than anything else about the character of the street
Yeah.
and what trees are going to be taken down. I know I don't have any impact, but I would like to know that before I come back someday from a business trip and find out that every tree on the street is gone, which was what it looked like for a while, and I know that's not the case. So again, that's more of a stupid aesthetic thing on my part than anything else. But I've lived there for 23 years, so I look younger than that. But
Hi, this is Rich. I live at 27 Lake Street. So I'm really excited to hear that there's been progress. What I also hear is that there are still some outstanding issues that will involve some of our neighbors compromising. What are the odds that that puts us back into having another meeting next year because one of our neighbors, we can't find a good compromise for the drainage, for the trees? What's the next step? Are we done and ultimately they're just going to have to figure it out? Or are we going to be back here next year litigating something else?
if there's any delay in anything, it's not coming up from here. It's your neighbors. So I can't imagine.
Right, but
I can't imagine
that's
they
how
would-
we got here. So
Yeah.
are we done with it, or are we opening a different door?
Well, a couple of things. One, it has been asserted that it's a public way.
Okay.
So it's a town road. And so we're going to fix it. And I don't mean that to be callous, but we have to fix that road. I mean, this is what started 5 years ago, is we had to fix the road. We just couldn't figure out how to do it. So we're going to fix it. We're going to minimize whatever impact we can, because it's going to be a narrower road than it was before. There may be a tree that makes someone unhappy or something, but if the tree jeopardizes the safety or considerations of the road, we have to do that. So I don't expect that we're going to be back at anything, because
So that
it
stuff
it
has
is a
been
public
litigated
road. The
and-
town voted to accept it. We have the litigation that's established that. So we're going to fix it, but Bob is very, I mean, if you go to, he's done so much road work this year.
Yeah.
He should take no, he can't take the winter off. That would be a really dumb move. But he's extremely, I'm not trying to make, it's the worst job in the world is fixing roads. And well, second worst, building inspector's the worst. He does an exceptional job at mitigating concerns that residents have on their property. I mean, I can't think of a single time that someone hasn't been, I mean, they may have wanted more, bigger stone walls or whatever. Not going to micromanage it, but he works very well with all of you, and I think you'll be happy that he does this in the best way he possibly can to mitigate your concerns. But we've got to fix that road.
So
And
there's
we've got
a-
to do it before the winter.
So there's a process to help residents who have additional concerns get those concerns rectified without delaying the paving of the
I
road.
would suspect that would be the case, but I can't speak for every resident. I mean, I would hope that everybody could work whatever little considerations there might be, and I don't mean to minimize them, but
Yeah.
we got to fix the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
I think the one concern that we have a little bit too is just making sure that the vendors can get here. I mean, it's not, Bob can't make agreements with them until we have everything signed off and in place. And the tree vendors and the road vendors are, they're contractors like any other contractor. They're busy and he's got to be able to schedule them. We're at the.
It's not a timing issue, it's just, I want to make sure there's a mechanism for residents who still have concerns to get those addressed
Yep.
without further delaying the inevitable.
I hope not. can't promise anything anymore. I don't know. I thought we had the road fixed 4 years ago, so what do I know? I don't anticipate, yeah, I don't anticipate. The big difference is that the issue about it being a town road or a public road is gone. That issue is done, finished, over. I mean, it would have been a great disservice for this to be a private road for you folks. That was not the right answer. Would have been the simple answer, but it was the wrong answer.
Seth, do you want to propose a motion?
Yes. Do I have a motion to accept and authorize Mr. Hathaway to sign the agreement?
Is that what you were looking for?
Oh, well, I guess so.
What I'm looking for.
That's what I'm looking for.
He's looking for it, too.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we have a deal. Yeah. I'll do that, too, when you leave. Yeah. All right, it's in your hands, Mr. McGee.
Okay.
Good luck.
Good luck. You're all welcome to stay. Oh, no, thank you. Thanks. I know it's been,
bet,
painful
buddy. Thank you.
for all you guys. Believe me. Oh, thanks.
I'm the guy right there.
Oh, no, what are you apologizing for? No.
Been a little rough on you guys.
That's good. And deservedly so. Thank you. All right, hey, thanks, you're welcome.
I know it's not you.
Well, it doesn't matter. We're the face of it, so I can say, hi.
Thanks for being willing to work with everybody.
That's our job.
New to the streets, so.
Okay, well, I hope you enjoy it. It's a beautiful street.
It is.
Yeah.
We appreciate the fact that you guys are willing to make it smaller, with less trees, and it's better than a,
We live here, too.
yeah, we appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for saying that.
What's her last name? Live Better?
I know, my God.
Yeah, did you see that?
Sad about it.
We need, can I ask a favor? Can we take the conversation outside, because we're still in open session? Seth, we need to move this outside so we can continue the meeting.
Yeah. I signed
Just
it.
need meetings like this to happen closer to May, right?
Can you send me a copy of it?
Running the video, you keep
Make
watching.
sure that's the one I signed.
We'll Velcro him to a chair.
Are you guys trying to get me to bite on some kind of a conversation here?
Oh, no.
Not a chance in the world. All right, hey, Bob, can we've got to continue the meeting here, so can we take that to the hall?
Hopefully.
And then now you can run on your road.
Good, how are you? Nice to see you again.
Now you can run on your road.
I think we're golfing with you.
Oh, yes, oh, yeah. Yes, we are.
I'm on the golf committee.
Oh, good.
You can engrave the trophy now if you want, just save the time and have it prepared. We have a bet with the Cronin Group, so it's
No.
All right, we are going to continue with our meeting, if I may. But before we go too much further, I would just like to ask Mr. Calcutt which one of these two hats he would like to wear. My good friend Mr. Calcutt and I had a wager at the beginning of the season. He is an avid Yankees fan. I don't think the voters knew that when they elected him, but that's okay.
Now they do.
Now they do. But we put a wager that the loser, that whichever team won the division, the opponent had to wear that team's hat for the meeting. So it is my pleasure, Mr. Calcutt, to give you a Boston Red Sox hat. Which one would you prefer?
I'll take the
go
dirtier
with-
of the two, so it
Well, they're
matches
both
my
pretty
soul.
dirty. They're both pretty dirty.
I think that one's been run
Now, just
over a
remember,
few times.
the Red Sox are on a fantastic streak right now. This could have a Freaky Friday effect.
I don't believe in that.
All right.
If it's going to be freaky, it'll happen on its own.
Boy, that is a small
You can make it bigger.
Oh, Lord.
Jim, do you mind if I move over so I can hear a little better?
Of course not. Okay, Mr. Hathaway, next on the agenda.
There's folks here if they want to talk about the MAS building and bridge contract, I'm going to guess.
Well, actually, your contract, we can defer that if you want. Mass Building and Bridge contract, okay.
So we have the contract from Mass Building and Bridge, which you have over by you. That's for the contractor for the Lawrence Street project. Mr. DeLuca.
Feels good, doesn't it? No, it feels dirty. Doesn't that feel really good?
Mr. DeLuca has reviewed the contract and recommend that we,
You're a good sport.
he has signed off on it, so. Contract for MAS. So I suspect the people here probably also want to talk about the timing. MAS is ready to begin construction to close the road next Tuesday. That was a meeting that we had this morning with Mr. McGee and the engineers.
Mr. McGee has left. Okay.
So they would begin Tuesday. Public safety folks weighed in too, and based on the condition of the road, they recommended that we begin as quickly as possible, and they're recommending that we close the road because of the concern that they have over the lack of barrier, or at least visual barrier, on the sides of the roads. So they're recommending that we start at Tuesday as well. So if you folks are okay with that, we would begin calling people tomorrow morning, send out a reverse 911, post it on our website and Facebook page, put up the signboards again, and begin construction on Tuesday. Of course, we are a month behind schedule from where we had anticipated being, so there's concern that they won't be able to get through the project before the winter. But the schedule they have gives them that possibility that they're going to be able to get the binder down. But there is a possibility that we're going to end up not being able to get the binder down before winter, and the binder will go down in the spring when the plants reopen in the April timeframe. So it's not great news, but they're hopeful that they can get it done in time.
Just maybe some background, some of the options that we weighed in this was to delay the whole project until the spring. If we did that, we would have to put up, the public safety officials, both officials are very much against that. They consider that to be an extreme safety hazard. The road is narrow as it is. If you saw pictures of that road 30 or 40 years ago, it was over 8 feet wider than it is today. And so while the vegetation has been removed, what we've learned is that a lot of what is down there is actually, probably a lot of it is just sand that's come off the road. That road has been eroding significantly over the years, much worse than we anticipated. So we would have to put up Jersey barriers for the winter if we delayed, and the public safety officials have very strong concerns about that for several reasons, not the least of which is that it would narrow the road to such an extreme that 2 cars could not get by. And it would also be very difficult for emergency vehicles and almost impossible to plow. So for all of those reasons, and there was a lot of discussion on it, we felt that the best opportunity, if we did do that and hope to start in February, if you remember last winter, I mean, we were raking our lawns in February, and then March decided to get even, and we had the worst month of the entire winter. I mean, it's New England. We don't know what's going to happen. So we felt that the best opportunity and in the best interest of public safety to start this right away. And hopefully, if the winter is kind to us, we'll get it done. If it's not, then there is that risk. But we really don't see the choice. So you need to grab the microphone. It's up in the front seat. It's up in the front seat.
Ann Middleton.
Barely.
Ann Middleton, 6 Bretts Farm Road. Is this company that was doing the construction, are they going to be penalized for pulling out too much of the root structure and all of that stuff? That's the reason for the delay, I believe. Do you know, or
No.
is it fair to do that? I'm just curious.
No, DEP is reviewing the work they've done, but we're not being penalized for the work that was done.
The town isn't?
Correct.
No.
Nor
We
do I
shouldn't
believe
be.
they are being penalized.
Okay. Just curious. The delay is because of the root structure that was all...
The delay is because of the differences between, and there's a debate about whether or not they pulled out too much material, or if the survey that was done and the actual, if you did a more current survey,
Thank you.
if the erosion over the last couple of years significantly changed the area. You can't, sir, you can't.
Okay. Just asking.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yes, ma'am. It's like church, no one goes to the front row.
Stephanie Markham, 22 Lawrence. If If you can't get to the road bed, the initial road bed before winter sets in, will the road remain closed? Will the bridge remain closed for the winter and then reopen in the spring, or will you reopen it
If
somehow?
our understanding is if the binder's not down, it will stay closed.
Okay.
Am I correct on that, Mr. Hathaway?
So I arrived after Ann's question, and I am a little confused, because we were told that there was supposed to be no removal of materials from the south side of the bridge, or the causeway. So that was somehow a misstatement? Is that what you're saying?
All I'm saying is they removed vegetation. They claim that's all they removed. The contractor and the engineer have both argued over survey work that was done, and there's a, and I don't know the degree of difference between their opinions, but there's an opinion that one can say that, and it's probably somewhere in the middle, but some could say that they removed more material than was scoped out. The other opinion is that the difference between the survey that was done several years ago and the actual, if you do an as-built now, there are differences in elevations between just the two years' time. So that's what DEP has reviewed. DEP is comfortable with the work that is, the status that we are now. We're putting together a mitigation plan to put vegetation back out there after the work is done. And once the DEP, so we're going to begin work on the rest of the project, and where the vegetation was taken out, we won't begin that until the DEP approves that, but we suspect that'll be approved in the month of October.
So I guess I still don't feel like the question was answered. I guess I feel like we were told that the vegetation was not going to be removed. So you're saying that that was something that was never
My understanding,
Never
vegetation
decided
was always,
on?
My understanding was vegetation was always going to be removed. The areas that is underneath the vegetation is what is up for debate.
No, I'm talking about the south side. I'm not talking about the north side. The north side was supposed to be just cut down, and then the south side was supposed to be left alone. So you're saying that that was never fully decided. That's what I'm trying to ask. That's the question I'm asking.
And I'm telling you what I've been told is that the contractor is saying that he just removed the vegetation on the top. He didn't go down digging into the dirt.
Hi, Sandy Mai at 8 Eric Road.
And it's really up to the DEP, and the DEP has gotten involved and is resolving that. That's that's a detail that I'm not getting really involved in.
I'm asking a question based on meetings we had here. So that's why I'm asking those questions. The
That's
meetings we
fine.
had here were definitively the south side was not supposed to be touched. So, okay. So my question is, I'm just trying to ask a question about things that we were told here, not about the DEP, not about things with the engineer or whoever else is involved. I'm trying to make sure we understand what we were told. That's all I'm asking about.
Okay, and I'm just telling you, I'm not getting into the level of detail of elevations and vegetation and soil removal. That's outside of my area of expertise. I am comfortable, the DEP has been very involved, I'm comfortable that the DEP is working out the solution with the engineers.
So you're saying it doesn't matter what was said? You're saying that we're just
I'm
going
not
to...
saying that at all, that you're saying that. I'm relying upon the experts to resolve it. That's not-
Resolve. I'm asking about why it was put in a position where it was removed in the first place. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Okay.
And I think that's a fair question, and I think it's fair for me to ask for an answer for that.
And I guess I'm telling you, I don't have the expertise to answer that. So the DEP is working with the engineers.
This is not expertise. This is, were we told that the material was going to be removed or not? We were told it was not going to be removed. That's what I'm trying to ask, and I'm just asking for a straight answer.
Okay, and once again, I'm telling you, I can't answer
So if I go
that.
back to the tapes and it says something different,
But you're not going to get me answering questions about vegetation and soil elevations. So,
removal of material. It's a simple question. That's all I'm asking.
okay.
So I'm not getting an answer, is what you're telling me, right? You're not going to answer
I've
it.
given you an answer that I can't answer the question. I have had conversations with the DEP. that the DEP has been out there, the DEP has reviewed the work, the DEP is continuing to work with the engineers, and the DEP is going to look at the mitigation plan that the engineers come up with. That is all levels of detail that I'm sorry, but I can't answer that question. But I am
get that.
comfortable that the DEP will make sure that it's done correctly.
Do you understand that we were supposed to have a 90-day closure, a 90-day effect of this bridge, and that now we don't know when the end is, and we don't know how long it's going to be closed for, and all we can hold accountable is 90 days. But that bridge could be closed for significantly longer, and that impacts my every single day. I commute into Boston, and I cannot go over that bridge once you close it. So I'm just asking for honest answers based on questions that were discussed beforehand, and now you're telling me you can't give me answers on things that were stated in this meeting. It doesn't make sense to me.
And you're asking for honest answers. I'm giving you the best answer I can give you. So I don't appreciate you telling me that I'm not giving you an honest answer. I'm giving you an honest answer that you're asking for a level of detail that I don't have. I can also tell you that we are doing the best we can to provide the best public safety interest of the residents of Norfolk. We are taking a road that is in very poor condition, and we are trying to improve it. We are taking a bridge that is in very poor condition, and we are trying to improve it. We are taking poles down that provide hazards to drivers, and we are taking those and we're taking the utilities and putting them underground to make a better condition. We're going to put up guardrails. We're going to put up sidewalks. We are trying to make a better condition. And I'm sorry if there's an inconvenience over a period of time, but in the end, our goal is to provide a better public service to the residents of Norfolk.
So 90 days is out the window completely. It doesn't, you have no end.
We
as Linda
don't
said.
know that, and you don't know that. All we know, the 90 days is what we hope it will be, but because it has been delayed, if the weather doesn't hold, and you don't know the answer to that, I don't know the answer to that. If the weather holds and we have a reasonable November and December, there's a good chance we'll have it done within the 90 days. If the weather is bad and they can't put down the first binder coat, then we're out of luck, and we don't have any control over that. There's nothing we can do about that. We understand the inconvenience, but it's got to get fixed. It'll be worse if we wait till the spring. And it will be an extreme safety hazard between now and the spring.
But it was rushed, so it was rushed. All along it was rushed. And we were assured so many things, like the lack of removal of vegetation, which we were told in this meeting. We didn't talk to the DEP, we didn't talk to anybody else. And we were told that if it, pardon me, if we did what we were told, we would have a 90-day closure. And that is not what's happening. And I understand that it is what it is now, but it seems unfair that I'm asking questions that I'm being now told I'm asking about something and telling somebody that their integrity is a question. I didn't say that. I'm asking for a
I don't know
straightforward
the answer to your
That's all
question.
I'm asking for.
I don't know the question.
Answer.
You know, Mrs. Bedard, you have fought this every step of the way. Every single step of the way. You have made statements that are absolutely untrue. You have posted things on Facebook that are untrue, and you know that. You know that. This is a public road, and we're trying to help. We're trying to fix it. You're not the only one that uses this road in the town of Norfolk.
I'm
Okay?
well aware
It
of
is a
that.
town road. Jack said it right on. You will be better for this in every single regard. We're doing the best we can. I don't know what more you want. I don't know what you want, but you have fought this every step of the way, and I don't understand
What
it.
I asked for, first things, was for the road to be accommodating when you were putting in a ridiculously large development. What I've asked for along the way, which is completely separate from this, is that someone was actually accountable for the contamination that was over there. And we were told there was no contamination over there.
This road has nothing to do, no, I'm stopping this. This road has nothing to do with those issues that you're raising. Nothing to do with it.
I understand
All right?
that.
So we're
I'm
not
talking
going to
in
get into
terms
that
of the
debate here tonight.
entire- So you're sitting there telling me that I've been fighting this, and the reason I've been
You
fighting
have.
this is because of valid reasons. We still haven't had the soil around that road tested. We don't know if there's contamination there. You can't answer that, and I can't answer that. Can you? So you're telling me I shouldn't have a valid complaint about this. You also rushed this along and told us it was going to be 90 days. And if you had waited, we would be into the spring, and some of these issues would not be a problem.
When you get a grant from the state, in a situation like this, they require the project to be building ready. The state has been overly anxious for this project to get started. The DEP has informed Jack they want this project started. What do you want us to do?
So I'm confused, because What does building ready mean? Is that about the bridge or the development?
The ridge,
Because
nothing to do with the development. This has
I'm
nothing to
asking
do. The
questions.
development is not on the agenda to talk about tonight. It is not before this board, and we're
asking
not going to
questions.
get into it.
I'm asking questions because it was originally tied to the
We are
development.
not going to discuss the development in this board meeting
That's
tonight.
not what I asked you.
What did you ask?
You made a statement that said it has to be building ready. What does that mean?
It means that we have to have it engineered to a certain degree and be ready to go within a reasonable period of time upon the awarding of the grant.
So,
In other words, we can't start this 2 years from now and have this money.
and I understand that.
Okay.
But
That's
it
what it
couldn't have
means.
waited until spring, and then a lot of these issues would not be an issue. That's what I'm asking.
I can only tell you that we have been pressured by the DEP and the state to get this project going. If you would like to call them and argue with them, feel free. But they have been anxious for us to start this project. I wish it had started 3 weeks ago as well. No one's arguing that. I wish it had. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. But I will tell you that you have fought this, and you know it.
I have a disagreement over how it's being done. There's nothing I can do about this. Yes, of course I've fought this.
You know-
Because it has been a situation
I don't
where
know
it
what we
doesn't
can
feel
do.
like it's been
Mrs.
handled
Bedard, I don't know
properly.
what we can do to satisfy you. I honestly don't. We're doing the best we can. We're going to start the project. We're going to close it on Tuesday. We're going to hope we can get it done. It's the best we can do. I don't know what else to tell you.
I guess what I'm asking is, I just don't understand how we got to this point. That's
Well,
what I'm asking you.
Then
and
you'll
you know,
just have to not understand it.
I know. Apparently, I shouldn't bother coming to these meetings. I shouldn't have a voice because you keep trying to shut my voice down.
That's absolutely untrue.
How
That
many
is
times-
absolutely
How many
untrue.
times have you raised your voice at me and basically read me the riot act because I made one misstatement on Facebook? One misstatement that I was threatened with a lawyer for, which actually is illegal for what it's worth. So, and you keep telling me over and over and over about one misstatement I made. That's all I made. One
Mrs.
misstatement that
Bedard,
somebody misquoted to
I'm
me.
not going to get into this. This conversation's over. We're done. We're not going to sit here and do a he said, she said, or how many statements have been made or haven't been said. It's childish, all right? So we're
Not a
going to
matter of
move on.
childishness when I can't get over that bridge for every day for God knows
The
how
Miller
long.
Street Bridge was closed for 2 years. 2
There are
years.
other ways out of that into Norfolk. There is no other way into Norfolk other than going into.
They had to
Franklin.
go all the way down to River Road and around that whole way to get over in that area when that Miller Street Bridge was closed.
I'm familiar with
Okay.
that area. It's not as difficult. I'm going into Franklin.
I'm sorry for that, but when you fix a bridge, you have to close it. I don't know another way to do it.
Hi, Lawrence Wilson,
Yes, sir.
22 Lawrence Street.
It's for the cable, sir. It's not for us.
I
Yeah,
understand.
Yeah.
I was just thought I was following instruction on down here. That's okay. Why not put guardrail up? That won't take the same amount of space as concrete blocks.
My understanding is that we can't go into the ground at this point in time to do that. In other words, you'd have to put those deep into the ground and drill
Right.
them in and so on. The only solution that DEP, the whole group that was there this morning, Public Safety, Mr. McGee and what have you, was the only potential was to put in major, you know what I'm talking about, these hunks of concrete that you
Yeah,
see
yeah.
along the highways.
Jersey barriers is what.
Jersey barriers, thanks, that's the term. And that was not viewed as manageable, that it would have been too narrow. Mr. McGee was concerned they could even plow it and get the plows through. Emergency vehicles were concerned if there's a car coming the other way. We even talked about making it one way.
So it's
You
not
know-
a cost item when it comes to the girders or the metal. It's the fact that you don't think you can drive those pilings
Correct.
down.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the
That's what I understand. I don't think anybody here is a road engineer.
no,
but
no,
this-
we don't
this
have
is-
any experts here, that's for sure.
Yeah.
What's the, so if they don't get it done and they start in the spring, right now apparently we have some sort of control or some sort of management of the contractor to get something done within a certain period of time. Initially it was 90 days. What control do we have under that, with that contractor right now? It appears none, because we've given them a job, then we said, well, we don't know if you can make it or not make it, you know, and then we'll start sometime next spring. So, I mean, from our point of view.
Are you talking about intentional delays on the part of the contractor?
I'm just saying that how are we managing this contractor now, given that we don't have a straight 90 days, or we're saying already, we don't, it's up in the air as to whether or not you can complete this. It's not a given.
Well, the variable on the completion is the weather. I mean, if there's a freeze, or if there's an area where they can't do the binder, that's the weather, that's the concern. And there is a clause, I believe, in the contract, I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I believe there is a clause in the contract where if it's an uncontrollable event. This contractor is anxious to get it done as much as we are. He doesn't want this to drag any longer than we do.
Well, we're not impressed with the contractor. We drive over that and we see stuff dumped in the pond, and not picked up or policed down there. It just looks like it's been abandoned. Cones all over the place floating. So we have our worries, and I think legitimate worries, given what we've seen so far, as to whether or not this contractor's going to move ahead and get this job done in a suitable way or fashion.
I'll tell you, the contractor in the DPW is tired of pulling cones out of the water and having to rewrite the porta potty that's down there. So somebody's.
It isn't the contractors that are
somebody's
causing
creating
that.
some chaos
If it were me, I'd stick a pin in it to hold the cone in place, so I wouldn't have to go pick it up again. It's a pretty simple thing to do, or put a weight on it.
They're not just floating over, they're being picked up and thrown in.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's how they made it over the barrier. Okay, got it.
Yeah, those are not issues with the contractor or DPW. Somebody has chosen to have some fun with it, and it's happening regularly. And so,
Okay.
I'm not accusing we have no idea, but that's what's happening. They're down there having fun. Somebody. It's not the contractor.
So right now, you're saying that there still are some sort of controls on the contractor to get the work done in a certain period of time?
Jack, you were in a meeting with him this morning.
We have an engineer on site every day, so the engineer is obviously along with our DPW, is our eyes and ears as well, so they'll be monitoring them to make sure that they're making progress.
Are there any penalties, is really what I'm getting at, if this contractor doesn't finish this job in a period of time?
I don't know. Bob was going to look that up. I don't know.
I don't know at the top of my head either, sir.
Okay. I thought there were.
I believe there are. I just don't know what they are. I don't know. I don't recall. I know Mr. McGee would know, but I don't. He's not here right now.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I can't answer that. Other questions?
Yeah. Betty Ann Wakely, Brett's Farm Road. First of all, of course, I'm very disappointed in the way the project's been managed so far and that it's been postponed, but at this point, it is what it is. As far as the Mass DEP is concerned, I actually, was the recipient of an email today from Denise Child. Do you know Denise Child at the DEP? Okay. Well, she emailed someone in our group, and she said that some of the work conducted at the project was not in conformance with the plans that we approved. We are waiting for a plan that is being prepared by the town's representatives proposing the corrective actions for the unpermitted wetland resource area alterations. When we receive the plan, we will determine if the proposal is adequate, and then we will determine how best to authorize that work through the tools available to us. In the meantime, the town is not precluded from continuing on the portions of the work that are in conformance with the approved plans. So what can you tell us about what you know about the DEP and?
Well, that's that mitigation plan that I spoke of. So as you said, the remainder of the work, including the bridge and the area not in the wetlands where the DEP has concerns, they can continue to begin work right away. In the meantime, Green is working on a mitigation plan with the DEP. My understanding is they've come to some verbal agreements about what that work will be, but they now have to get it into obviously the devil is in the details, and get it into a plan that they can all sign off on. But we expect that to happen in October. In the meantime, they can start doing a majority of the work, which is the bridge work and the road work.
And I wrote to you guys about my concerns about snow removal because, I mean, the way the project's run so far, I'm assuming that this is not going to be closed for 30 days. I mean, 90 days, rather. And even 90 days gets us into December, where we will have ice and snow. And what are the plans to make sure that even Lawrence Street gets treated, because that gets so icy and so bad? How are we going to be sure that Norfolk gets over and treats our
I
roads?
can't give you the detail of it, but I know that, and I know you've heard from police and fire in terms of their plans when the
Right,
bridge is
right.
closed. And I know Bob McGee has a similar plan for terms of dealing with that. I just couldn't tell you off the top of my head what that is.
All
But
right.
I know there is a plan in place, as the schools have a plan in place. I mean, every party that we can think of that needs to be aware, we haven't checked the UPS drivers, but, short of that, everybody is prepared to deal with this.
Right, and
Yeah.
I mean, UPS drivers aren't a safety concern.
I know the
roads are a
police and
safety
fire one,
concern.
I'm just not as well versed on what his plow plans are, but I know he has a plan for that.
Okay, so we should contact him to find
Yeah,
out?
I'm sure he can tell you, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So the signs, you're changing the signs tomorrow to notify people?
Changing the sign?
And a reverse 911
Signs
call?
are out on the road, yeah, we're gonna do reverse 911, we're gonna make some phone calls, although I think most of the people that we're gonna call are here.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. They're a
No,
little
no, not the
more-
reverse 911, but the people that call us a lot we're in the room. We'll do reverse 911, we'll post it on the website, and which will feed over to the Facebook page, and we'll put up the signs out in the roads.
Where did Sue go?
She probably got tired and left. I don't know.
She's not trapped outside.
David Masher, 26 Lawrence Street. I do have to say that we, as a town, pave the road pretty well, plow the road pretty well, but Franklin on Mill Street does not. It's actually very hazard, and it's actually narrower than our roads. So now, that's where we're going to have to go out that way for snowstorms. So, that's going to be a hazard for us. Can you just reaffirm or remind Franklin that all the people in that area have to go that way, and that they're going to have a lot more traffic on that road?
Well,
And they're
I know
gonna wanna-
I know Franklin knows it, because...
A friendly reminder would be nice, I think.
Yeah, I know the police and the fire have an integrated plan with Franklin, and I know they've talked about that and addressed up in public, and I'm sure that part of that plan would involve snow removal and things of that nature. Thank you for the compliment on the way our streets are plowed, because I think that none of the surrounding towns do as well as we do.
They
but
do a great
that-
job. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I just wouldn't assume, because you know what happens when you assume.
Yeah.
I
think that's worth
That's
mentioning.
why
Yeah, will do.
I will tell you this. Many times I've had to go to Franklin, I don't go down Mill Street. I come down our roads, because it's a nightmare.
Yeah, okay. We'll reinforce it.
It's just that,
Yeah.
because you can have, 20 more, 30 more houses now of traffic that way. Plus, our school buses have to go that way
Okay.
in the wintertime.
Yeah, good
Yeah,
point.
and Betty Ann Wigley reminded me of that, mentioned that to me the other day, and I mentioned it to Bob, I just haven't had a chance to follow up with him, because I wasn't worried about it snowing this week, but we
Yeah, I hope
will
not.
follow up on that. No, we talked about having because our plows are gonna have to circle around through Franklin, we'll talk to Bob about keeping their plows down and treating those roads as if they're ours, so.
I wasn't sure if that was allowed, if towns would get mad.
We'll negotiate it. There are some border wars, but.
Okay, any other questions, or? Okay, well, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll try.
We have a request to close a road for a very short period of time for Halloween party. You have that information in your packet.
Any questions on it? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You have the warrant in your packet. You got to get the colored one, yeah?
Gotcha.
So we have the warrant. Mr. Lindmark's here. God bless him. How's your road? As of today, as we stand, we have 14 articles. We have transfers. We have some unpaid bills. And I understand we have two. I'm not sure what rogue department that was from, but we have capital requests, and I think Todd talked about those a couple of weeks ago in summary. We have, in case we have water enterprise and sewer capital. We have the report of the committees. We have a request from the finance director, and this is part of the Municipal Modernization Act, thank you, sir, that allows us to apply premium that we receive when we issue bonds and put that premium towards the project and reduce the borrowing. We request from the Community Preservation Fund. I'm not sure if that number's been finalized yet. Did you go to
It
that?
has not been finalized.
It has not been
It won't be
finalized yet?
until, we're going before them
Oh, you haven't
tomorrow
gone yet?
night.
You haven't gone yet?
Tomorrow night, and they'll vote
Is
tomorrow
anyone
night.
going with you?
Mr. Henny.
Mark Henny.
We have a zoning article that talks about the Zone 2, so the well protection. There's a map that'll go with that. We have a request from the planning board to change our zoning bylaws regarding moving the F11 site plan approval process from the building commissioner to the planning board. And then Article 11 is also part of that F11, but it just talks about reducing the number of copies that they have to submit with that plan. We have the request from the Energy Committee for $15,000 to do the audit. Number 13 is not, that needs to be wordsmithed or really just added to, but it's, if you remember 5 years ago, we talked about purchasing 5 acres of land on Pond Street, and because of the working with the Department of Corrections and the DCAM, the State Asset Management Group, we had trouble trying to get a field out of that 5 acres, so it wasn't very valuable to us. But Representative Dooley has worked with DCAM, who actually was willing to sell us 10 acres at $400 an acre, so almost give it to us. So we're trying to work that out to see if we can actually get that number increased to 10 acres, and if so, we'll have an article that'll just supplement that earlier project. And so we might have potentially up to a $4,000 request as part of that, but certainly to get us a new field, or land for a new field would be long-term value. And then Article 14 is something that I put on after, and I put Board of Selectmen, but I can change it to Town Administrator if you have strong feelings about it, but it's just changing it's eliminating the grandfathering on the, I guess the term limits really on the Council on Aging. It's the only board that we have in town that we've set term limits on, and so if somebody serves on the Council on Aging for 2 terms, then they have to sit off for a term, and then they can get back on. They're having trouble recruiting board members, or they have in the past anyway, and it just seems like that's a kind of unnecessary term limit that why is that board singled out? So my recommendation would be to remove that term limit. So that's should be a pretty succinct town meeting.
Do I have a motion to open the warrant?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to add the article from Mr. Dooley?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to close the warrant?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We take about a 3-minute break.
Sure.
Mrs. Gleason, just take about a 3-minute break, if we may. Just let me know when we're off. brief 3-minute break, and we are back in open session. Mr. Hathaway, we've done the discussion of town meeting warrant.
We have.
Let's flip back up to town administrator contract.
So town administrator contract. So I guess we just need to continue that discussion we've had before about my inevitable departure. So we've had some discussion going on about trying to figure out a way that we could come to a mutually beneficial agreement that would allow me to depart in a timely manner, but also would give the town some opportunity to go through the process to hire a new town, do a search and hire a new town administrator. So one of the things that I had proposed, and I know Scott and I have had back and forth on a little bit of a document, but actually there's a Mass Municipal Manager. When I talked about this with Dave DeLuca, there's a gentleman who works for Merrick O'Connell, is that the name of it? Who represents the Mass Municipal Managers Association. And Dave has gone through and created these separation agreements with this gentleman in the past. And so Dave recommended I reach out to him. So I did that yesterday, and I gave him the nuts and bolts of what I was thinking, and he's willing to work with Dave to come to an agreement that would be mutually acceptable. I think the short of what I'm looking for is, and that I think would be acceptable that I think would be acceptable to town. It's up to you, obviously, if you think it's acceptable. But is that I would depart in December 1st. So giving you some notice now, let you start the process, and in exchange for me giving you an extended kind of notification of leaving, then I would you'd provide a 3-month severance after that. So my contract would continue for 3 months after the time that I leave. That December 1st date is it's not rock solid for me, but it gets us, we had talked about getting past the fall town meeting, so that was my kind of date that I picked there. So obviously I'm, just for what it's worth, I'm actively looking for a job I'm moving up to the York area and looking for a job up in that area, and I haven't got one yet, but I've got a few leads. So I suspect I'll find something that I can start in January or February or sometime in that time frame and get actively engaged again. So that's kind of the gist of what I was thinking. I know Kevin did some work with Scott looking at other contracts from around the area, and did some analysis on separation agreements and what are in existing contracts. I think there's my interpretation was what I'm looking for isn't something that is out of bounds of what is in place, falls somewhere in the middle of those contracts. Of course, then you can compare it to my existing contract. Of course, I have the right to work till June 30th, and then talk about a severance at that point. But I'm not looking to do something that's acceptable to both of us here.
Kevin, you did some, or Scott did it, but at your request, some good research. You want to comment on that at all?
Yeah, essentially what we did was we took a look at a couple of the key components of the process that we're looking at right now as it pertains to required notice given to the town if departing, required notice for the town to provide if there is no intent to renew, and severance that is typically provided in both of those situations. What we found is that there is a wide range of different things that are included, and there are some gaps in what are currently in our town administrator contract that I think that would be good to keep a note of as we work into the next one we do.
Agreed.
Just to keep us with best practice with the towns around us. But as it stands with Jack's current contract, as he mentioned, if he were to stay through June with our notice not to renew, that he would be due a 3.5-month severance at the time of his departure in June. Whereas at this point, his proposal is only for a 3-month severance. So essentially what we identified in this process is that That falls within the parameters of his current deal, and that it is comparable to that of the towns that responded to, I think it was 22 towns in total who responded to our inquiry.
Yeah, good, thank you. I'm the only one that's, I think, been through a town administrator search because Jack has been here that long. If Jack's contract allows him, as he mentioned, to give us 30 days' notice. Anyone in their right mind, once they get a job and a start date, is going to give us that 30 days' notice. I think we would all agree that anyone would do that. And not knowing exactly when that is, we can't start a search until we have some sort of understanding of when this new person may or may not come on board. That happened with our prior town administrator, Bob Markle, when he gave us 30 days' notice at a not very opportune time.
Christmas Day, I think.
Huh?
Right around Christmas Day.
Yeah. You know, that's when we start the cycle of getting ready for Springtown meeting. And we had a tough time. It was very difficult not having, because that institutional knowledge that is there with the town administrator, and especially with you after 14 years, is a critical component of how we put together the Springtown meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And it was tough. It was really tough. I also talked with some of the selectmen over in Rentham on what they went through when they had to put an interim in for a period of time on their search. And they would, I think their words from one of the selectmen was, anything you can do to avoid that, do it. Because it just creates a huge hole. Not only is it, as you say, contractually appropriate to do it, because we're asking basically for a termination of contract without cause, as I think you found out the correct wording of it is. It advantages, I mean, I'm grateful for Jack considering it, because it advantages us in being able to hopefully get somebody in place if we start the process advertising and whatever, you know, whether we use a consultant or not a consultant or whatever, however we choose to do it. We can talk about that in a sec. I got my back to you again. I apologize, Jeff. I don't know how to do that.
Okay. Get a new table.
Huh?
We can get a new table.
I'll move backwards. A round table? A round table would do it. This is something that helps both parties, as you said. And are you in agreement? I gather you're in agreement with going forward with this.
Just to be clear, though, you know, if we work off of this December 1st date, right? Let's just work off of that date for theoretical reasons. We were to start our process for searching for a new town administrator. Highly unlikely we would have somebody by December 1st. at
Oh,
this
heavens
rate,
no. No,
right?
no. We won't even be reviewing resumes by then.
Right. So in that case, we would have a gap. That gap you would anticipate would probably be, what, 2 months?
At the most.
February?
If we're lucky, yeah. Yep.
So that means that for that period from December 1st, January 1st, and February 1st on to the end of the month, that is 3 months in which we would not be carrying a salary for that position.
Well, we would be, the severance would be equivalent to a salary.
My point is that we would never have an overlap in the salary.
Correct.
Okay. And during that time, obviously, if we had a need or a question or something that required your attention.
We won't be paying double.
Right.
Right.
But my point is that you would be available to be able to answer anything like that. Okay.
If we do you believe you said you'd have it in the November issue? You go online advertising. If we hire a consultant that I know you've raised, then I would hope that we would be reviewing resumes in December and hopefully maybe even doing finals interviews in December if we get lucky. I'm sure whoever comes in you're probably not going to get them to start quicker than 30 days, so I think February is the likely date.
Gotcha.
It took us 4 months last time to do it. And that's, of course, assuming we find the right candidate. You know, that's always the question.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I was the interim from.
Does that have to be on the record?
Yes, ma'am. What?
Does that have to be on the record?
Well, you're
We're on camera. We're on TV.
Camera.
Actually, two of us out there were talking, people were talking out there, and they've noticed since the Rentham trucks, the big development in Rentham on Park Street, that's building like 90 homes, there's a little bit of wear and tear over the Park Street Bridge. The concrete, the asphalt is kind of starting to buckle.
Okay. We'll bring that to Mr. McGee's attention. Okay. Thank you. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
For what it's worth.
No, it's worth a lot. that wasn't on microphone, but she was sharing that there was, with the wear and tear of the large trucks that were coming from the Rentham development, that there seems to be some wearing of the concrete on the bridge on Park Street, so that's good to know. You pass it on to Mr. McGee?
Doing that right now.
Doing it right now. So, I'm sorry, you were...
You were talking about the timing, I think.
So are you agreeable to pursuing a termination agreement, premature termination agreement with a contract with Mr. Head? I'm not sure that's the right way to say it, but without cause, effective December 1st, and then providing a 3-month severance agreement and a respective consulting agreement to have him available as needed?
Agreeable.
Agreeable with you, sir? Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion?
Just for the record, just chime in that certainly, and Jeff brought it up 2 weeks ago or whenever that was, that, yeah, and I'm not saying I won't consult, but just,
Within
we'll
reason.
put some language in there
Yeah.
that'll be within reason.
Within
Yeah,
reason.
yeah.
We won't expect you to drive down 3 days a week.
Right.
What?
2 days a week.
Oh, don't tell them. We were negotiating. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Jack, thank you.
Well, thank you.
For agreeing to do that. One other item, can we just discuss the construct of the review committee for the review of the resumes that we will receive for this position? When we did it last time, I honestly don't remember whether we had 7 or 9 people. I don't remember. I would suggest either number works, but what are your feelings?
So, knowing the process that we went through to find a town planner last time, we used a consultant, and I would say at this point, in working pretty closely with Rich, that that was a good find and a good hire.
Yeah.
My question, and I floated through a couple of people upstairs, was, would that same kind of theory or same kind of benefit apply if we were to utilize that for a town administrator, town manager, or whatever that segment is called? The feedback I got was that absolutely, same guy is actually still doing the same thing. And I thought that there would be some benefit to doing that, in that this person seems to have connections with people who are currently in these positions in other towns, and would be able to maybe give us a leg up or help accelerate the process if we were to try to just do it with an internal group of people built up of representatives from each of the boards in town. Totally up for discussion, but just wanted to kind of float it out there and see if there was any kind of downside to that I wasn't
I
aware
don't think
of.
there's any downside to hiring Bernie. I think he can get to people that our normal process will not get to.
Right.
That doesn't change the review committee process, though. Are you suggesting that we hire Bernie to review the resumes? Or
Well-
just to create the candidates, so to speak?
Frenzy.
Present candidates.
I think presenting candidates would be what I was getting at, but it wouldn't necessarily be the open pool that I think that you were intending for a larger committee to review. I think it would be more concise, maybe a smaller pool of people that, I don't know, wouldn't necessarily require such a large-scale input from so many different aspects.
Well, I don't think it hurts to use both concepts. I mean, to advertise, which was what we did last time. We also advertised for the planner position, too. But I think you're right. I think that the consultant clearly will have access to people that would not normally respond to an ad. Someone that really isn't looking, but if prompted to take a look, might take a look that otherwise he might not, he or she might not. So I think it's a great idea. But the screening committee plays a different role. I mean, he will bring in a group. I mean, some of these resumes will be eliminated quite easily in most cases. But the screening committee's role is to review all of the candidates, regardless of the source of input. At least that's how it's traditionally done. If you have a thought on how we might do it differently, we kick it around.
Can you explain to me the screening process that you envision a little bit in more detail?
All of the resumes are collected, they are reviewed, they can be reviewed by either the consultant or they can be reviewed by our human resource director for meeting certain basic requirements. Just like you'd apply for any other job. And once those basic requirements are met, then those resumes are passed on to be reviewed by a group of volunteers, if you will, that we can kick around, who makes that up. to pick what they think are the best of that group. We would get the resumes as well, by the way, so we'll have that same batch, but we're not involved in the screening process because we have to pick the finalist. They would then bring forward to us a recommendation of, they would interview a certain number of candidates, whatever they choose, 3, 5, 6, 8, 10, whatever number of candidates they think are viable. They would then interview one-on-one, not one-on-one, but individually and directly, they would interview those candidates, and from that group, they would select a group of finalists. Usually it's 3. I mean, that's, and when Jack was at Norwood, there were 3 finalists that were brought forward by that screening committee. When we did it before, in which Jack was selected, they brought forward 3 candidates. Ironically, we didn't pick any of those 3 candidates. We went to candidate number 4. We're not required to agree or disagree with whatever they bring forward. If there's a candidate that they don't bring forward as a finalist, that we collectively like his resume and would like to interview him, we have every right to do that. It's a screening committee. It's been used for the superintendents. It's the same process that we use in the King Philip schools. It's the same process we've used here. We haven't had a lot of town administrators, but it's the same process we've used here. When we picked the new lieutenant for the police department, we had a screening committee, if you will. So it's a fairly routine process that I don't know of a town that's done it differently. Now, where has been some differing is that they've hired a professional consulting firm to do all of that and then bring forward whatever they feel are the finalists. We haven't done that. We've used a consultant to bring forward candidates, but we have not used a consultant to pick the finalists. I personally would not favor that because I think having some knowledge of the community and the town, no 2 towns are exactly the same, and I think that, if you have members of the school, the police, the fire, you've got a broad representation of the people that work here, and a citizen as well, then you've got a better feel for what might fit here in Norfolk that might not fit in a Dedham or a Franklin. Franklin, he's retiring at the end of this year as well. Medfield, he's retiring. So there's a lot of opportunity in this area, and each town is somewhat different. And so that's why I like the screening concept, because they have a feel for the community, and I think that's important. I know that was one of the reasons when we interviewed the other 3 candidates, they didn't have that. You just, I don't know. I'm the only one left around here, but I just didn't feel that they had any, that they would fit in who we were and what we, or who we think we are. Let me put it that way. I don't know how else to say it. And I think the screening committee brings that to the table where a consultant doesn't. A consultant's looking at a resume, and he's looking at the credentials that brings to the table. And that's a component of it, but it's deeper than that. It's personality, all of those things that you would interview for someone for a job. The credentials get you in the door.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think you hit on kind of where I'm going with this whole thing. I'm trying to apply my experiences in the professional world, hiring and recruiting and screening and all those types of things. And I know one of the things you try to stay away from in that sense is the large group kind of exposure for a single candidate, and sometimes may raise some concerns that may withdraw that candidate or make them disinterested in the process. So I know that you went through this process a couple of times over the course of the last 5 or 6 years, right? Was this kind of the same thing that you experienced in those other situations?
Yeah, in the screening committee, you're doing it in an executive session environment, so everything is confidential until they present that, until they start weeding out candidates. Then you can't do it in an executive session anymore. So when they present the finalists to the selectmen, that's when you have an agreement that the names will be released. So usually everybody's pretty comfortable going through the first process. And I think, the consultant would be good, not only beating the bushes to bring candidates here that we might not otherwise attract, but also would help, probably just sitting with Scott, just going through it with a quick review and weeding out some frequent flyers who are applying for every job, or that he can already tell us, they crashed and burned 6 years ago. We don't want to, for whatever reason, that may not be a good fit here. But I think having the committee, I've sat on a couple of the superintendent search committees, and it's been good having a variety of people trying to get a feel for if this person's going to be able to fit. A lot of it's about the personality, and you're trying to see if the person will fit into with all these different nooks and crannies. Public safety, education, town hall, selectmen. So, yeah, I've gone, so yes, this process, I did it in Foxborough and I did it in Norwood. This is the
Your
same
thoughts, sir?
process.
No, I mean, I think, maybe we should call it the screening committee, officially, formally, as opposed to the search committee, because I think, that does, with Scott on board in human resources, I think between Scott and a recruiter, I think that's where the searching, for the candidates and presenting to the screening committee, and maybe that'll help avoid confusion in terms of roles and responsibilities. But it's worked well before. I mean, I've participated in a handful of them over the years in terms of screening candidates, including the planning job. So yeah, I think it's an effective way to approach it.
Agreed? So, if we agreed, we'll use a consultant.
Agreed.
We've agreed we'll set up a screening committee.
Agreed.
Okay, all right, that's a good start. How many do we want? 7 or 9?
7.
Yeah, I think that's.
All right, that's 3 first. Can I suggest some constant, without names? So I think, and this is kind of traditionally what we have done, we've had a representative from the school.
Face that way for a little.
Pardon?
Face that way for a little. Jeff's.
Hi. Well, nice to see you. You've been here all evening? When did you arrive? It's the baseball cap that did it to me.
What happened to that piece?
Oh,
Now they're over here.
The punishment was well. The
Yeah.
punishment
Green
was
grass
well.
are already achieved. We
I
already
said,
that
I said to Kevin, we
good.
better be careful he
Yeah.
doesn't bury a Yankee cap
Yeah.
underneath the public safety building.
The,
That's, I'm worried. Gotta watch this
I
guy.
hadn't thought of that.
Cross off a 2021 reelection.
Let's
bid. There
put
we
it
go.
we'll put it in a time capsule and see what happens.
We also want to make sure the Red Sox make the World Series.
Well, I think the
Bad
odds
karma.
are that we're going to be playing the
That
Yankees.
juju's already been put on that one.
I am not willing to make that bet again. I lucked out once, I'm not going to luck out twice. But anyway, a member of the school, traditionally that has been the chair of the school committee, who is, I will mention his name, Tom Doyle. We've had fire representation, we've had police representation, we've had a board, 1 or 2 board member representations from whatever boards we so choose. We've had a citizen on the committee, and I think it's appropriate that HR probably be on the committee. That would constitute 7. And a former selectman. And I think that's important, that there be a former selectman on there. So, without, again, who, is that something you guys want to consider, or you have alternative thoughts?
That seems reasonable.
Pretty good. Yeah.
So, schools, police, fire, that's 3. A board member's 4. Human resources is 5.
Board of Selectmen 7.
Board of Selectmen is 6.
HR.
So we could have 2 board members then, or am I missing someone?
Citizen.
What did I miss?
Citizen.
Citizen.
Citizen. Let me try it again.
Non-affiliated citizen.
Yeah. By that I mean someone that is neutral to whatever issues.
That'd be what?
I mean, everyone has passions, but someone that's neutral to issues that are in town.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
I think that goes without saying. What was that, Scott?
Citizen.
That's 8.
You've got 7? You got 8. So one board.
Read it one more time, Scott.
School, police, fire, board of selectmen member. And when you say board member, I assumed you meant another board, is it?
Yeah.
Correct, yes.
Other board member, former selectmen, HR, and
You said selectman twice.
Right.
former selectmen.
We don't, no current selectman will be on the board, on the committee.
Not on?
Not on the,
Oh, okay.
because we have to hire, we see the
Right.
finalists, so we shouldn't be on the screening committee. We're going to see all the resumes anyway. So that's 7.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Works.
If you have suggestions on who might want to fill that role, is it, are we?
asking me, or are you just
I'm
talking
asking
with-
both of you, would it be agreeable to approach the chair of the school committee if he would have interest?
Absolutely.
Would it?
What's the question, Jim? Who's going to chair the committee? Is that?
No, that's up to them.
Okay.
No, just, would it be, we need to get, we don't have to finalize this, but we need to get somewhere along. Would it be agreeable to approach the chair of the school committee?
Okay, as the
It's
candidate for.
As a candidate for this, would that be
Yeah,
agreeable
yeah.
to you guys? Okay. Police and fire, anyone have any strong views on that, or you want to allow us to? I can think of two people that I think would be very good. I think, but, you know, if.
Could I
Sure.
make a request that we look outside of the chiefs? With no prejudice or anything
No,
like
yeah.
that, but just,
The two people I was thinking of were not chiefs.
okay.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea not to have anybody who's a direct
We were,
report.
Yeah.
I was thinking to avoid direct reports.
Yep, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting at as well.
Yeah. So, I think would you, I guess we could give the names. I think Peter Petrusiak would be a good choice from chief for fire, and I think Tim Hines would be a good choice for.
Did you say Peter would be a good choice for chief? Is that what you said?
Is that what I said?
I think that's what you said.
What? That'd be somebody else's choice, I guess, but I think Peter would be a good choice from the fire, and I think that Tim Hines would be, Tim is a sergeant on the force, was one of the candidates for lieutenant. I think he would be a good choice as well. Would that be agreeable?
Absolutely.
We have only two former selectmen that I know of still in town.
One of whom may be interested, so.
We have Mr. Bugby and we have Mrs. Terrio. Joyce was on the prior selection committee when we hired Jack, if I remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
Joyce was, yeah.
Would you be okay with Mr. Bugby?
Absolutely.
You'd be okay with Mr. Bugby? Okay.
Mr. Garrity?
I'm sorry?
Rob Garrity would you?
Yeah, that's true. Rob Garrity was there. Mr. Garrity's going to be on the town committee, though.
So
So-
is Mr. Smith.
So I think he's going to have his hands full there. Is that agreeable?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody have there are two, I've had two people request to be on that from boards, and I've not had a citizen come forward. Anybody have a suggestion for a citizen?
I don't have a suggestion, but do we necessarily have to name
Nope.
them right now?
Nope,
Could we
absolutely do not, no.
put the call out, throw the bat signal up, and see if we get?
We could put the bat signal up and see who raises their hand.
Beautiful.
Yeah, okay. Is there anyone at home that might have interest in doing that? Let Mr. Hathaway know.
Mr. Bragdon, though.
Or Mr. Bragdon know, okay.
And just because I know he's watching, I think Cole's an excellent chief, just that comment in about Peter.
I think Cole knows
Right,
that
the
was,
Yankee
yeah. Well, Cole's a Yankee fan, so, we won't
Still
go
an
there.
excellent chief, though.
We won't go there. Okay, so I think we're, anything else on
You gotta
that?
come up with a board member. I assume Mr. Bragdon will be your HR representative, and you gotta come up with a citizen.
Yeah. Why don't you share with the other two, the two names that I gave you, and see if they have an opinion one way or the other.
This is for the board members?
Yeah. And if you have another member that you think would be appropriate, throw it in there.
Yeah, you can pull a name out of a hat.
We can do that. We can pull a name out of a hat, yep.
Very good.
And do it on live TV, so it's not rigged. Okay. So can we put that as an action item to finalize the appointments? Do I have your permission to touch base with the fire and police guys and the schools?
Absolutely.
Okay. And Mr. Bugby as well, is that okay?
For what it's worth.
Also, we'll want to negotiate a contract with a consultant, so we'll need that okay.
I'm sorry?
I'll want to negotiate a contract with a consultant,
Okay.
so we'll need that done.
Yeah, and you might want to invite him in to, I think he would do a quick dog and pony show for the selectmen, which would be productive.
Wouldn't that be helpful to do that at the same time that we get the selection committee together? Let them hear the same dog and pony show?
Sure. Be more efficient that way, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good, good.
Maybe we can plan that for the end of the month, the 30th? Not that far away. Is that agreeable?
The day before Halloween?
How appropriate.
Let's make sure that it's not a trick-or-treating night. Nope, that's a Tuesday.
I hope it's a Tuesday.
Yeah, our
All
next
right, is that
meeting-
agreeable? So we'll try to have the committee finalized by the to vote on the 17th. Our next meeting is the 17th?
Wednesday, yes.
Wednesday. So we'll vote on the committee that evening to appoint them. We just need to nail down the board member and a citizen.
Yep.
So we don't have a meeting scheduled for the 30th? We only have a meeting scheduled for the 17th, so you want to...
No, we do have a meeting scheduled for the 30th.
I have one on my calendar.
I have one on my calendar.
As do I.
Oh, they just posted.
We got plenty of 48 hours left.
Well, we will certainly
Yeah,
get
there are a lot of
that-
48 hours in there, so you're good.
We will get that done.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
How do you want to close out doing the, did you already vote on that? Sorry.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Drifted off. Just doing the early dismissal retention policy, whatever you called it.
Early dismissal.
How did you want to close that? Did
You want to say that again?
Did you want to authorize one of the board members to finalize that, or do you want to, did you vote on that?
They did vote on it. They voted to.
All right, never mind. I
We-
took a little nap.
We voted to
so
go
I'm getting
forward
old.
with
They
the
voted
considerations
to-
of the contract.
Right.
So
To
if you want to work with the MMA and come up with a draft of what that is and bring it forward to the next one, bring it before December 1st, that's all I ask.
Okay. Well, I'll bring it for October 15th. How's that? 17th.
Is that all right with you gentlemen?
Yes. My apologies.
I think I am getting a stiff neck from looking to the left all the time. All right. Any other updates, Jack? Any other discussion items?
No, I think we just have the
Warrants.
warrants.
Okay.
All you, Jim.
Oh, I do have one. I almost forgot. We received a communication this week from the Attorney General. And I would like to just reference some of this. This is in reference to a complaint that was filed. I will name the individual because the individual came into our meeting and announced that he had filed this complaint, Mr. Chipman. And the complaint was that we had violated the open meeting law. I won't go through all of the details of it. We did discuss it in two different meetings. The Attorney General reviewed this. The letter is 4 pages long, and it accounts in great detail all of the considerations. I will read this, that we appreciate the patience of the parties while we reviewed this matter. Following our review, we find the allegation regarding the insufficiently detailed meeting notice to be untimely, as discussed below. We find that the board did not violate the open meeting law by failing to maintain accurate minutes. In reaching this determination, we reviewed the original complaint, the board's response to the complaint, and the complaint filed with our office requesting further review. We also reviewed the notices of and open meeting sessions from the board's April 10th, December 6th, January 23rd, 2018 meeting. Finally, we spoke with the complainant by phone on March 27th and with numerous folks, and this specifically being our town attorney on September 13th. Again, there's 3 pages of going through very detailed analysis of what occurred. And the conclusion, for the reasons stated above, we find that the board did not violate the open meeting law by creating inaccurate or insufficiently detailed minutes. We now consider the complaint addressed by this determination to be resolved. I just would like that into the public record, seeing as it was publicly stated that that complaint had been filed. That's it.
I hate to do this, but the only other thing I wanted to just say, just regarding that whole Lawrence Street discussion was...
Please.
You know, I know people kind of reacted to the fact that I said that it may not get done. And I just... And I guess we've, you know, and Jim, you and I have always gone back and forth about this for many years, and we've always tried to lean on the side of being open and being, you know, with the contracts that we sign, with the information that we have, and so, you know, I just have this sense that, you know, it would have been easier for me to just say, we're going to move forward, the contractor believes that he can get it done, and not go to the point where saying that, yeah, it's going to go into December and the weather may impact us, and then therefore we may go all the way till March. You know, so I guess I'm kicking myself a little bit, and I'm not, but I'm, you know, for over-communicating, but my gut reaction was it was the right thing to do to warn people that we may not get through this, we may not get the binder down, and so there's a chance that we're going to go through till April, May. You know, we've had plenty of times when there's been weather in October, November, and early December, that may be the chance. But we've also had plenty of years more recently where
You've had
December,
snow and
we've gone
Thanksgiving.
through December, and it's been good weather, so we may get through this. So I just, you know, I guess I'm just trying to say that I hope that, you know, the contractor can do what that they think they can do, and they can get through this, and we'll have binder down before Christmas, and all will be good. But I just, you know, as we have always tried to do with this board, is to try and be open that you know, we're also going to tell you the worst-case scenario that, and prepare you for the worst, and hopefully deliver better than that.
Well, you and I have talked about this many, many times, and you know, I apologize to my associates and probably to folks at home that I probably got a little hot under the collar on this, but it is very frustrating because while we could make a mistake because we are human and don't know every component of every process of every rule, this board, as long as I can remember, has always been completely transparent, has tried to be as open and honest as we possibly can. We live here. We're here to help people. And I know it's very frustrating on people, and everyone is entitled to their different views, and God knows there are many of them, and that's okay. You know, but you and I talked about this morning. We're optimistic that it will get done within 90 days, but we can't control it. I mean, we've had, as I said, I remember Thanksgiving, we got 2 feet of snow. It's unknown, and we have always erred on full disclosure, that there's a possibility that it just might not happen. We might have to keep it close. We don't want to, we don't like it, but the alternatives, and they were weighed carefully by the people that know best, which is the public safety people and the engineers. And they're emotionless about these types of decisions. They know that the number one priority is to keep people safe. Now, inconveniences are not what we want, but there's a difference between being unsafe and creating an inconvenience, and a big difference. And we don't want anyone getting hurt. And when Mr. McGee showed me those pictures of that bridge back in the 50s and 60s, I couldn't believe it. I mean, it's 8 feet on each side. That's how much that road has eroded over the last 50, 60 years. And it is getting, and of course now it's down to the shell of the road. I mean, that road is close to collapsing, and with the rains that we've had and everything else that undermines roads like that, it just increases the hazard. And the last thing we want is, we don't want inconvenience, but if it's a trade for public safety, speaking for me, I'll make that trade every day of the week. And we've been very open about that. And I know it's frustrating for these folks. It's not fun to have to go down Mill Street and cut over to Franklin, and it's going to be an inconvenience. And, you know, for the kids, for the schools, everything. But the alternative is worse. So it's the least of the bad decisions we have the opportunity to make. I don't know how else to say it. Don't know what else to do. And we're just trying to do the best we can. It's frustrating. And the part that I think sometimes we forget is that this is a town road. It's a town bridge. We have an obligation to keep these roads safe. And we don't get into these kinds of debates when we do roads. There was no debate on Miller Street Bridge. There was no debate. I mean, we did it for Lake Street, and it took us 5 years to work that one out. And we did this because of the obvious impact, but also because of the sensitivity of the project that's going on up there. So we thought we were doing the right thing by getting everybody involved.
Bridge on Main Street.
Pardon?
At some point, we'll do the bridge by.
Well, you got the Mill Pond.
Bridge by City Mills.
The Mill, yeah, by City Mills. That's going to be a nightmare.
Yeah, anybody who lives in Franklin's gonna have a tough time getting it.
That's going to be a nightmare. That's right in the Franklin-Norfolk border. That is going to be a nightmare. So, yeah, you'll have to come down Mill Street.
I come down Midway. I'm all set.
But I just want to commend you for that approach, because we talked about it this morning, and we were optimistic that it would get done. But that's not the full answer. The full answer is that if the weather doesn't cooperate, it might not get done. And that's the right thing to share that. And I know it creates more conversation and more anger and angst and all of that, but it's the right answer. So, sorry for the preaching on this, but we try. We try very hard.
So Jack, the project at this point, it's Bob pretty much on a daily basis, just checking in, make sure everything is proceeding. Not necessarily going through all the detailed plans every day, but at least making sure the crew's there and things are moving forward.
Combination of obviously Bob and then Barry, his assistant, and then the resident engineer who we've hired who not only make sure that the work is getting done properly, but is also there to measure quantities and all the materials that come in, because we're paying for materials as they come in. So hopefully we've overestimated materials like they're supposed to, and we'll have some savings at the end because of that.
So I mean, these things, with complex projects in particular, so, I'm not a civil engineer, but I am an engineer. Can I ask that the board be immediately notified if things start moving off course from this point forward? If crews don't show up, there's something unusual that we know about it.
Absolutely.
Immediately, and that would at least give the board members peace of mind in terms of, interface with citizens.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have weekly meetings, and we'll have minutes from those, and certainly we can send those to you, and but if anything more immediate comes up, we'll let you know ahead of time.
Kevin, I want to compliment you for being such a good sport on the hat. Thanks. Now, I'm going to make the assumption that you're going to beat Oakland tomorrow. I'm willing to venture into the playoffs if you're game.
Nope. You have already put a dark mark on the Red Sox postseason. I will do nothing else to spread that out. We'll see how it shakes out.
Wow, thank you for the support. They better not lose.
Put a rally cap on and you turn it inside out.
There you go.
I better reverse the curse here. Put a rally cap on. This way or backwards?
That's
or
close enough.
backwards?
Yeah, any way you want.
Reverse the curse.
Reverse the curse. All right.
Cole mentioned something about that you and I owe him something from a long time ago. Last time, though.
We do. We owe him a
Last
dinner.
time the Yankees won the World Series, which I honestly can't remember when that was.
I think it was
2009.
Oh, 2009?
How many have they won in this century?
I don't think they've won any this century.
Well, 2009 is the
2000.
century.
Actually, you're right. 2009 is the century.
Doesn't that count?
It does.
Once. How many of the Red Sox won? A lot. 3. Yeah. Of course, we won't go prior to that. Because I think it gets into double digits.
You just might have started off the new 100 years right here.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, good point. It was only 86 years. It took us a while. Not as bad as the poor Cubs. Todd, did you have anything you wanted to?
Enjoying the show.
Had nowhere to go tonight?
Just got to go back to Mr. Palumbo.
Any other business, gentlemen? You do. God, I hope it works. And I sure hope that bridge gets done before winter.
I hope so.
Better not show this to any of the candidates for the town administrator position in New Jersey.
Sorry, I think you got that one, I think.
All right.
Just Jeff.
Jack, anything further?
No, but if Kevin wants to hire a town manager, I may throw my name into that.
See that? I knew he was going to jump on that little slip of the tongue.
I was going to let that pass.
I wasn't.
All right, gentlemen, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much for joining us. And our next meeting is Wednesday, October 17th, I believe.
Correct.
And be safe. Thank you. Go Sox.